Hello everybody, we're going to be talking about CBDCs and the implications that they have on the modern world. We're going to be talking about the good things and the beautiful things that it's going to bring to us, the simplicity, the ease of use, etc., everything involved with that, as well as obviously the super controversial things that everybody loves to talk about. Now this is super important, it is super imperative we talk about both because there are inevitably going to be good things about this that we should be looking forward to. Because it is an inevitable truth of the world that this is the direction we're going in. And if you're in crypto, you ought to know better that this is the future. And we should definitely be talking about the bad things as well, as to make sure we are paying attention, as to make sure that we have a voice in what's happening and that we don't adopt something that isn't in our favor as the people. So that's what we're going to be talking about. More specifically, in order to be able to comprehend where the CBDC industry is headed and what that's going to look like, because honestly right now, full disclosure, there is no comprehensive study done on a international level to what a CBDC would look like, right? So all we can do is look at things like this over here, these studies such as the Digital Pound Foundation, the Digital Euro, all of the other CBDC forums, all the other CBDC development firms, everything that's happening towards the development of CBDCs, we can only look at those as individuals because right now there is no international standard for how this thing is actually going to work. So one thing you should pay attention to in this video, and one thing that's very important, is there hasn't been any real world full application of CBDCs, at least on an international level. So that is very, very important to keep in mind during this video. But the thing that we will be taking care of, the thing that we will be looking at and studying here is going to be what are they doing to build their knowledge base so we can force this forward, and what are we looking at currently as maybe the start of standards in what we are going to be seeing in the future for CBDCs. And so that's what we're talking about in this video, and most notably, of course, the Digital Pound Foundation. Now, if you guys aren't aware, Quant is actually a member of the Digital Pound Foundation. That's why we are talking about it. I talk a lot about Quant, and Quant is great, especially its founders are really great. And on the key team, of course, we have Martin from Quant. And I think, actually, I don't know if Gilbert is on the main team. I think Martin has been allocated this part of Quant. So we're going to take a look at that, and I wonder what that's about. So so before we go on, I have to let you guys know that I'm not a financial advisor. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. Let's get into the video. So we're going to take a look at the Digital Pound Foundation, because like I said, all we can do is study these individual companies. So the Digital Pound Foundation, this is their about page. The DPF is an independent organization that was incorporated on the 22nd of June 2021 to work with a variety of stakeholders and participants towards the implementation of a well-designed digital pound and effective and diverse ecosystem for new forms of digital money. Now, I've brought them up before and showed you all of these partners, but these are the main partners here. We have Electroneum. You guys are probably familiar with Electroneum, Avalanche as well. If you guys keep up with me, you probably know who Accenture is. Maybe just from just your own studies. Accenture is a pretty big company, so maybe you know who that is. That they're also a part of the team. Quant, of course, there they are. Ripple, and One Step. Oh, sorry guys. One Step, Financial, Modular, back to Electroneum, Clifford Chance. So here are the companies. You guys are probably very familiar with some of these. Anyways, let's continue. I don't want this video to drag on too long. One thing I should mention, guys, in my videos, I really like to just talk. I'm not used to, and I don't like to put a lot of visual stimulation on the screen. I don't have pop-ups here and there. So if you guys are into that, let me know in the comments, because, I don't want to have to go to that just because there's nobody who in that demographic who wants simple information, just spoken. So if you guys are into that, just spoken, you guys want to throw me in your pocket, put some AirPods in or whatever, and do your work, do the dishes, whatever you're doing, let me know, because that's the kind of content I want to continue to make here. So the DPF's goal is to act as a catalyst among stakeholders across the public and private sectors, including academia, to explore and articulate the case of a well-rounded conceived digital pound in both publicly and privately issued forms, beginning with a program of research, advocacy, and multi-stakeholder engagement. Our work will progress through a regulatory engagement and industry testing via provision of a forum and ecosystem for multi-participant collaboration on practical experiments, proof of concepts, and pilot work as needed. So this is really important. Basically, what they're saying is they are working through multi-participant collaboration, which means multiple companies are going to be working on this and building their knowledge base very strongly. And we're going to get into the partners that are actually partnering with the Digital Pound Foundation and growing that knowledge base as to make sure that everything is secure, everything is tight, there's no holes. Because as you know, if there's holes in a system, if there's holes in a digital pound, if there's holes in a digital currency of any kind, well, once you release the CBDC in the world, you can't just go back. And so it's very imperative that somebody like the Digital Pound Foundation or anybody who wants to invent the world CBDCs for world currencies, it has to be bulletproof completely. And if it's not, that's very, very, very bad. So take that into account. That is one of the biggest reasons why we haven't really seen any full applications of international level CBDCs that are traded on a world scale or used in everyday exchanges, is because, if there's any holes in it and it's broken, well, it's going to get hacked. People are going to rob the world. And so you can't have that, right? So we need to make sure everything is completely secure. And so that's what they're saying here. We're building our knowledge base with a multi-participant collaboration. They're doing practical experiments, proof of concept, and pilot work as needed. So you guys have probably seen many, many pilots that have taken off throughout the years for different kinds of CBDCs, as well as other things that are just in the works in many, many countries. And we can talk about that another time, but right now, focus Digital Pound Foundation. The DPF will support and complement other projects and associations having similar objectives. That's what we were just talking about, including the Bank of England's consultation framework and engagement and technology forums, existing industry associations and private sector initiatives. So that's exactly what we're talking about. So this is really important. That looks at the implementation of a digital pound from a holistic perspective. Now, this is exactly it. You have to make sure everything's secure. And not only that, there's a lot of factors going on into making this kind of thing, right? You're not only focusing on making sure this thing works and is cool and is applicable to the world and useful to the world. You have to make sure it's secure and it can't be broken, like really can't be broken. I can't emphasize that enough. This is a world currency. You also have to make sure it's adopted, right? And the way you get adoption is through things like making sure the public feels secure using it and they don't feel like it's an invasion of their privacy. And we're going to get more into that just in the future here, but just keep in mind there's a lot going on here. It's not just about it working, right? And so, we're just going to transition from here. I don't want this video to be too long. I have many, many things to go through. So, use cases for the digital pound. Now, this is a focal point for the DPF. This is one of 2 points that have to be made for the DPF and the whole reason the DPF exists in the first place. Now, the DPF exists to, 1, discover why we need CBDCs and create a convincing argument of why CBDCs, and more importantly, the digital pound, is useful for society. The other thing, they have to figure out how it's going to work and how it's not going to fail. That's basically all they exist for. And so in this video, we're going to be discussing both of those things. And firstly, we're going to go over the use cases that they have discovered. And there's a little bit at the end of this video that I want to show you as well, as a little snippet of just some little research they did. So, on the 7th of February, 2023, the Bank of England announced a consultation with HM Treasury on potential digital pound or central bank digital currencies. Complementing cash. Now, this is an important point. A lot of people, they get scared when they talk about CBDCs because they are worried that cash is going to get removed from our system and we're going to have no privacy. It's going to be completely overhead. Valid argument, right? Now, what you have to understand, and what these companies, including the Digital Pound Foundation, that are creating CBDCs understand, is when trying to make a coin, like I've said before, or when trying to make a new form of currency, it's not just making it work, like I said. It's also looking at it from a very holistic perspective and realizing you have to make sure it works, you make sure it doesn't fail or has zero holes, and you also have to make sure people are going to adopt it. So this, to me, them just saying this, complementing cash, is a very moving statement that shows that they are trying to get this adopted as well. There is a lot of moving parts in the system. There is a lot of minds who have to work on this to make sure it works 100%. And so to kind of ease some of your concerns, they are looking to complement cash and not replace it. And as I've said before, one thing that I've realized, I think, as far as CBDCs go, is CBDCs are seemingly going to be less of a replacement and full advancement of currency, and it's more so going to be an accessory of currency. Now, this is what I noticed when I was listening to one of their panels, and somebody had said that they're thinking about maybe making a limit of maybe £3,000, right? And that's, or $3,000, whatever the CBDC is. And that's interesting because that's not a lot of money, right? That's something that maybe you use for the month to pay your bills, whatever. The rest of your money would be obviously in a bank, or maybe, who knows, or maybe in cash. Wherever you keep your money, wherever you keep your store of value, it's going to remain there. And, CBDCs may be just simply an accessory to transfer funds. Now, maybe options in the future for larger corporations who need larger sums of CBDC, whatever it may be. Ultimately, the point is, it's appearing so that CBDCs is going to be something that's accessory to cash and, your bank deposits and so forth. A CBDC could be used by households and businesses for everyday payments in-store and online, and would be interchangeable with cash and bank deposits. This is not the first time in history that new forms of money or means of payment have evolved. Of course, guys, we've gone from coins, we've gone from gold to silver to everything else. We've really gone up into debit cards, credit cards, plastic, other forms of digital money. We've really been through it all, and it's going to continue to evolve as we move through time and space, right? And so it is important to accept this as reality. I don't create the future. You probably don't create the future. We create it collectively. And I mean, the collective movement is moving towards CBDCs, and this must be understood. And if you don't want to accept that reality, well, you're going to get left behind. So let us get educated in this space and let us understand how this works. And so we don't get into a corner where we have some kind of tyranny happen, and we do get that ultimate big brother overhead, and we can resist and we can say, look, I know what I'm talking about. I need cash to remain here. I need cash to stay. And, if we don't understand what's going on, then that's when we get taken advantage of. So this is the best you can do, is by watching this video now, by getting educated in the space and knowing what is happening in the future, finding a little bit of certainty. And so, money's evolving. Money's going to continue to evolve, and keep on top of it. Stay educated with it. It's going to, and past CBDCs, it's going to evolve as well. A digital pound infrastructure must be stable, secure, and resilient, much like Quant and Overledger. Now, this is something I love to talk about, especially when it comes to Quant and Overledger. When a company wants to utilize some kind of DLT technology, which do they pick? Right? There's lots of coins out there, and a lot of them do the same thing. So how do they pick? Well, if I was a business owner, or I was in the financial industry, or a fintech company, or whatever I was, I wanted a technology that I could utilize that used DLT technology. I would want to make sure that it's going to do as many things as it possibly can for me, and it's scalable, and I'm not going to have to replace it in 10 years. And so what's the solution? Well, rather than picking one, rather than picking, okay, I'm going to use Ethereum because Ethereum has a lot of stuff that I can use, a lot of utility. What if I could use Ethereum, and if any new technology came out, I could use the next thing, right? Or if a new technology after that came after, I could use that next thing without having a bunch of infrastructure mess everywhere, without having to readapt everything, recode everything, recalculate, reorganize, and fix everything, right? That would be a big mess, especially for large-scale industries, especially something like healthcare, where there's a lot of data being transferred. And so the best thing you can do is find a scalable system that allows you to utilize all of them, no matter if they upgrade or not. And something like Overledger is very capable of that, right? If I want to use, Stellar for a while and utilize its utility and use Overledger to communicate with it using its APIs, I can. And then if a new technology comes out after called XYZ, I can then use my Overledger to communicate with XYZ, assuming it's compatible with Overledger, which I'm assuming if there's more technology to come out, Overledger will be on top of that, right? I mean, the whole point of Gilbert creating policy, creating the regulations, and being on these boards and things like ISO and policy and regulation places like that, like UK Finance and so forth, is to make sure that if new technology comes out, it's going to be interoperable with the rest of the tech that already exists. And so in a way, Overledger, Quant, very scalable, very resilient, and obviously, by other means, very secure. And so one thing that I think they mean by this, resilient, secure, and stable, is they want a CBDC that's also capable of that, right? And that's one of the biggest reasons I believe that Quant is on the team, is because they are very capable of making this happen. And so we're going to see possibly Overledger being a very large part of CBDCs in the future, or even Gilbert Verdian working with other technologies to adapt in CBDCs, which is very cool. It must be accessible and inclusive, including to those without bank accounts. So this is another interesting thing, without bank accounts. Now I wonder what this means for the financial industry and how it's really going to change it. I feel like this could be a whole video on its own. How CBDCs might make more people unbanked, because if you don't need a bank account to hold it, right? But if it is an accessory, like we were saying, if it is an accessory, you might still need the bank account after all. But to hold smaller sums of money, if you are living with smaller sums of money at a time and you only need that $3,000 every month, so that could have some pretty big implications on the financial industry. So that's interesting. I might make a video on that in the future. It needs to be interoperable with existing payment infrastructures. So think of something or a company like Swift, the leader in international payments, right? Or think of simple payment infrastructure for banks and everything associated in that kind of area. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of complexities that are involved in there. You're going to need a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge in a lot of specific areas in payment infrastructure. They're going to be able to make everything interoperable. And so to make sure that crypto, or rather the CBDCs, are going to be able to interoperate with everything is going to be a pretty big task. And so that's something to keep in mind. That's another reason why this kind of movement into this new payment infrastructure that we're creating with CBDCs is going to take a while. It's going to take a little while, because we got to make sure that there's no holes, zero holes. If there's a single hole, well then, the whole payment system that we create could get hacked per se. And, that wouldn't be very good for the world. And so we really have to make sure there is zero holes. So we need a lot of minds for this. Keep that in mind. And fungible with other digital and non-digital currencies and technologies. Then we come to use cases, from peer-to-peer lending to programmable conditional-based payments. As the name implies, programmable payments enable conditions to be attached to the payment instruction. For example, payment made upon completion of a particular task or fulfillment of a certain pre-specified criteria. Therefore, determine how funds are spent. Okay, so before I get into the therefore determine how funds are spent, think about this. If I go on eBay, per se, and I want to buy a TV, now there's a little bit of a problem here, because who exchanges which product first? Do I give them the cash, or do they give me the TV, right? There's this weird little trust barrier. So when you have a CBDC, you can really simplify this. You can say, here's the smart contract, right? And if that TV is serialized and put on an NFT that demonstrates or shows ownership of an object, well, then you can exchange the NFT and the CBDC instantly at the same time via smart contract. You don't even need a middleman to facilitate the exchange. It can be simply done on a smart contract. And so this is very important, because if everything in the future is serialized, which is a little scary, but if everything is serialized, including houses, vehicles, any kind of asset, it's all serialized, you can show ownership through this NFT. And therefore, if you want to buy anything, say secondhand or even firsthand, it can be done without all the paperwork, without all the BS. You can simply exchange it instantly using a smart contract. So that will streamline a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of jobs will get lost because there's a lot of middleman jobs that are there just to facilitate payments, right? But a lot of points I can make on that, but we need to carry on so this video doesn't drag on too long. Therefore, determine how funds are spent. Unlike today, where there's no visibility or control over how cash is spent, this is understandably a potential characteristic of digital money that raises concerns regarding the infringement of the rights of users. Central banks would need to think of this carefully. Now, obviously, the Digital Pound Foundation is not going to create the digital pound themselves. They are simply exploring and researching the potential and what is needed to facilitate the creation of a CBDC. And so that's why they say central banks would need to think about this carefully, because they would be the ones creating it. Now, the big worry is this overhead, right? So there are concerns that the government or the banks would be able to tell you what you can and can't spend your money on. Now, this is obviously a big deal. If I want to spend my money on 10 bags of M&Ms, I'm going to buy 10 bags of M&Ms. But let's say I can't buy that because they're trying to control the health of or the well-being of people, then, now I'm suddenly losing my freedom to choose an unhealthy lifestyle, which, is integral to life. Decision-making is integral to life, and it really takes away from your freedom. So this is something that's being kept in mind. If somebody has the power to do something, generally they use that power, right? They exercise that power within their means. And so there is a lot of worry here determining how our money is spent, and that's seen in other countries already, and it's happening every day. And so there is a big worry here that could happen in our country or our countries. And so yeah, like I said before, this is just demonstrating how they are paying attention holistically to what people really want and the adoption of it, and making sure that these aren't the kind of things, this isn't the kind of overhead that we're going to have in the future. Skeptical about the control over how citizens spend their own money. So here's an example. What if the government decided to control access to news by refusing to allow individuals to spend certain monies on such access? Could have political implications for what information you're able to access. That's terrifying, right? Because now easier to be brainwashed, which sounds a little conspiratorial, but at the end of the day, we are influenced by people on an everyday basis. And if they can control which people we're influenced by, well, they probably will. And so another thing to worry about, another little bit of a negative to the CBDC world, but it is being talked about before they are created, and they are driving awareness to this. And so hopefully we'll find solutions in the future. Here's a positive. One positive use case for programmable money might be government issue relief funding. Funds can be used to purchase food, pay utility bills, but not to place a bet or book a holiday. So basically what they're saying is for something like the COVID relief fund, that'll be able to get instantly into your account. And for those people who are really struggling or were struggling at the time, that could have been seriously helpful for them because maybe they were laid off and couldn't pay the bills. Well, now here you have the COVID relief funding that could have been put instantly into your CBDC wallet and used that way. As in, even for allocation, like, it would be so much easier if everybody just had a wallet that was tied to their SIN number, and easy as that, sent out, or however it works, right? It would be very, very easy, very streamlined. Very useful, ultimately, very positive. So another, I guess, one more thing, another positive here that they're claiming is it would really help against fraud. Right, there's a lot of scams that happen when it comes to no middleman, or having buying a product, sending the money first, having the product sent to you. If that process was facilitated by a smart contract, everything would be more streamlined, and a lot of fraud would get removed. And as well as a lot of money laundering would get would decrease. So you'd see a decrease in crime as well, ideally. And so that's kind of the point there. So for the next few slides here, I'm kind of just going to fly through and then make a comment afterwards. So just pay attention to some of this information and we will cover it in a moment. So the Digital Pound Foundation, an independent forum supporting the implementation of a well-designed digital pound, is pleased to announce the expansion of its board of directors and with the appointment of 2 new board seats as it continues into its second year of full-time operations. So they have expanded their board with 2 people that were actually already on the board. I'm not sure where they left, but they have rejoined. So Jana is the founder of Markets Evolution, a consultancy specializing in financial markets innovation and regulatory strategy. She's a member of Whitechapel think tank, steering committee for the Global Blockchain Convergence, former director and regulatory advocacy ambassador for the London Blockchain Foundation, and Phil founded the Payment Systems Consultancy, reportedly, which is an interesting word to put in there, I will say, the CEO of CHAPS, as well as the operations director at CLS, and holds non-executive directorships at RTGS Global, Clearbank, and One Step Financial, and sits on the steering committee of the Whitechapel think tank for emerging technologies in UK finance services. That was a mouthful. Now, this is really interesting. It's basically just showing you that they are continuing to expand. They have more seats. I mean, obviously, when these people left, they were replaced, and now they have them back. So they have even more people ultimately on the team. So they are continuing to expand, which is cool. And here is another partnership that actually took place with the Digital Pound Foundation. The Stablecoin Standard partners with the Digital Pound Foundation to help educate and promote acceptance of new forms of digital money. We're pleased to announce that Stablecoin Standard is the industry body for stablecoin issuers globally, has joined the Digital Pound Foundation as a new strategic partner. Stablecoin Standard brings together industry experts and some of the biggest names in stablecoin developments and crypto, expertise from liquidity providers and regulatory and compliance professionals and other ecosystem partners. Now, upon a little bit of research here on Stablecoin Standard, you'll find that they're actually fairly new. They're a new development. Their oldest post here actually was posted, if we can get this to load quickly, back 9 months ago. So only 9 months ago from today. So they're fairly new. They've only been here for about 9 months, as you can see. 9 months ago this was posted, and or at least their first partnership was announced, their first news post on their website. And so that's another, interesting thing, but not to belittle them, they actually have a very strong team that I can show you guys. So here's their advisory board, and you'll probably see a few names that you are familiar with. We have the Anna Yuan. She is the stablecoin lead, and she is from the Solana Foundation. I'm just going to cover, there's other places like Cumberland that you might be familiar with, but I'm just going to cover the ones that the majority are familiar with. Head of strategy, we have a man from Bitstamp, as well as head of policy, Leslie from the Stellar Development Foundation, and the head of capital markets from Chainlink. So we have a very strong team, very new development, not a lot of information on them, but the narrative continues. They're continuing to expand, right? They're continuing to expand. As well, the Blockchain for Europe partners with the Digital Pound Foundation to explore geopolitical and monetary implications of new forms of digital money. So what I'm doing now, guys, I'm just showing you kind of the developments that the DPF has been making and the partnerships it has been making. And like I've said, this is very important. You have to pay attention to these kind of things, because as I was going to get to this after, but I don't want to have you sit through all this and not know why. The point of establishing all of these partnerships is to grow the collective mind, right? They're trying to develop something so grand, a CBDC, a new form of currency for not only just for the digital pound, but this is ultimately research that's going to contribute to the ultimate international level CBDCs, right? CBDCs are going to, or people from other countries are going to look on this CBDC if it gets released first, and they're going to take note of exactly what they're doing. So this has very big implications for the world. And the collective mind is going to be thousands of minds, thousands of partnerships and people that are all collectively trying to use their minds together to create something very, very complex. And so this is what the growth of a company like this, more of a research company, that is what they're going to do. And so here we have more minds, and we're saying, okay, the Blockchain Europe partners come in. We have the Stablecoin Standard who's coming in. Gilbert Verdian has partnered with UK Finance. There's all of these partnerships. And if you watch my last video on Quant, that's exactly what they're doing as well. Quant specifically is just partnering, growing that collective consciousness and understanding exactly how the best method to go about this is and what exactly we need to create the CBDC of the future. And so as you can see, we have the Stablecoin Standard, as I said, Blockchain Europe partners. And so we're going to continue here, but keep that in mind as we go through these things, that is the point of all this, is to network, create that collective consciousness, right? As their strategic partner, the firm will collaborate with the DPF on areas of mutual interest with respect to the emergence of development of public and private forms of digital money. In particular, the DPF and BC4EU will focus on policy and regulatory developments in different jurisdictions. Now again, policy and regulatory, this is all the main the main purpose for the DPF is trying to create policy and trying to make regulations to understand and better develop the digital pound or just CBDCs in general. So here is the team here. So we have a big team. We have Andrew Whitworth. He is on the chair of the board for Ripple. And we can take a look here. And I want to show you something. This is a very young industry, right? And so we're going to see a lot of new people who are coming into the industry. It allows a door for them. And so something, this is just an external observation, if you will. This Andrew Whitworth here is the policy director who works full-time at Ripple, and he's been there for a year and a half, right? So we can go back and we have Steven here, board member for Binance. And if we go to his LinkedIn here, we can see he has also been working for a year and 10 months. And if we continue the pattern, we can look at Katie's, and she has also only been working as the board member for Coinbase for about a year and a half or 2 years, right? And so we have a lot of new faces that are coming into the industry, and they have their past in different sectors. But when it comes to crypto as a whole, like there's a lot of people coming in and out. And so it's very interesting to see this sort of pattern here of different people coming in and out into the industry, and especially bringing in all like their past knowledge, right? So they all have their own experiences through life and in different financial sectors that they get to bring into the space. And again, growing that collective conscious. And then CMS joins Digital Pound Foundation. This was back in July. So we're pleased to announce the addition of CMS to the Digital Pound Foundation membership community with 79 offices over 40 countries and 5,000 plus lawyers worldwide. So the CMS is a lawyer firm, and they are coming in to make sure that, of course, another holistic perspective, another area of growth that they have to cover, the legal implications that are going to be involved with making sure that the DPF is balanced, that making sure that CBDCs are going to be balanced in both law, structure, and adoption, right? There's so many aspects to this, and that's why it's taking so long. As well, we are delighted to announce that Chris Glennie, partner of the financial services team at CMS, will become co-lead of the DPF's policy, legal, and regulatory working group. Chris was previously at the Bank of England for nearly a decade, so a lot of experience there in the financial industry. When he advised the bank's work on the digital pound as co-lead, Chris will take a leading role in driving the DPF's policy and regulatory agenda and our explorations and thought leadership in the space. Chris will also be joining the DPF steering committee, which plays a key role in setting the governance and strategic direction of the DPF. So this guy's taking on a big role, but it's important, right? It's one of the 3 things that we just talked about. And yeah, super important. Now, I want to make a last kind of point, last remark, because obviously this video has dragged on for a very long time, and we're going to start breaking video records here for my channel. So I'm going to rush through this a little bit, but here's something interesting. Talking about NFTs working into smart contracts and using that with CBDCs. So we talk about cars and the transaction of cars. So here's something that one of the many studies that DBF has done, or one of the sort of thought experiments that they've done. And so how does a car sale happen today? So you may not have a clear picture of your vehicle's history during a transaction, especially secondhand. And so what if there was an NFT, right? If you were buying a car, secondary market, and you wanted to buy that car, but in order to buy the car, you really wanted to know any accidents that it's got in. You wanted to know if any parts have got replaced in its lifetime, which parts have got replaced. If you have that car on an NFT, you can have all of that information stored. And so before you buy it, you know everything there is to know about that car. And as the owner, you know everything there is to know about that car. And so that's something really huge here. So today, when you make a car purchase, you agree on the price and purchase details with the seller. At this point, you may not have a clear picture of the vehicle's history. You will need to sign a contract, which varies depending on the purchase is being funded and then place a deposit for the vehicle, usually using a debit card or bank transfer. In the case of a bank transfer, you will likely not receive an immediate confirmation from the seller that the deposit has been paid. Indeed, sometimes this can take days, creating uncertainty and perceived risk, particularly if the deposit is significant and the seller is not known to you personally. So yeah, I mean, it was like we were talking about the TV and eBay and having the TV being serialized. It's the same thing here. If you are using CBDCs and NFTs, well, this process can be instantaneous. No middleman. You don't have to wait for confirmation. You don't have to wait for anything like that. You can simply make the exchange instantly and seamlessly, securely. In any case, right at the beginning of the car's journey at the factory, new non-fungible token NFT form of tokenization that is used to indicate ownership could be minted and registered to the manufacturer's wallet. And so it's saying here, this is obviously in the DPF studies. So this is being talked about that cars could be serialized and put onto a DLT technology as an NFT, and you could exchange that for the CBDC, right? Just instantly. And so this would obviously go over our 3,000 limit that we've talked about. But, you know, there's going to be a lot of other things that are going to be discovered and a lot of different methods that can be used to maybe hold more money or make larger exchanges. So yeah, basically, I don't want to go over this all. I was going to. We really did drag on. However, I think we really did cover it with our TV analogy, and covered really all the points there of having that exchange take place. Now, there's a lot more. Obviously, there's a lot of information you can put on those NFTs. You can put everything from your insurance to all of that, and maybe instead of getting pulled over and showing them your license registration, you just show them your NFT wallet. So that's something that might be in the future that we can look forward to. So, so on Wednesday, the 31st, January 2024, there is going to be a space or a panel that's taking place. And they're going to be talking about how has the implementation of a well-designed digital pound advanced in the UK. So they're really going to do a comprehensive update, much like this, but probably more in depth. And how will stablecoins be regulated, and what are the resulting prospects for the stablecoin market? So we're going to be talking about exactly what we talked about in this video, but maybe more in depth and have some more questions. So I'm going to keep you updated. I'm going to see if I can get access to this and get you guys a video talking about this. And so if you guys want to stay up to date with that, stay in touch, maybe subscribe, maybe like the video and come back, put it in your history. Whatever you got to do, I'm going to most likely make a video on this. So yeah, guys, we are pushing the limits here. We are up at many minutes. I don't even want to say the amount, but if you enjoyed this video, let me know, please. Like I said, I usually do more talking style videos where it's more free. There's not a lot of stuff in your face, and there's not really a lot of stuff on the screen. But this video is more of a read. So I apologize. We will return to this style more where I just speak and you don't have to really look at the screen at all. I really do enjoy that, more podcast style. So yeah, if you guys made it this far in the video, bless your soul, and I will see you in the next one.